Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Mike here. Today we're going to talk about my 1989 Squier Stratocaster that was reborn. This is a story about my childhood guitar. It's a story about a love that was lost and then refound later on in life. So if this sounds interesting, stick around and see what happens. This is an 89 Squier Stratocaster. This is my childhood guitar, my first electric guitar that was reborn from the ashes of my memory, let's put it that way. So a little bit of a background about the guitar. When I was a little kid, let's say elementary school, junior high school, I was in the orchestra for the school that I was going to at the time. And I played violin because my grandfather had left violins to us grandchildren, my brother and myself. But I played up through junior high school. And I did a pretty good job of it, but I never really got into the violin. I always wanted to play guitar instead. I had convinced my mother you could play classical music on an electric guitar. I did this by sharing with her what I had discovered merely by the album cover, mind you. Yngwie Malmsteen, he's got an album cover where he is fighting a three-headed dragon with a Stratocaster, but he's playing classical music on the guitar. I had convinced my mother that I could indeed play classical music on the electric guitar. I even let her listen to some of Yngwie Malmsteen because I believe I had a couple of cassettes I bought with my own money. She bought the electric guitar for me. Truth be told, my very first guitar was a 1988 Squier Bullet with a #1 in the star. It was red. I think it was Dakota red. It may have been a different color red. And it was weird. It was kind of like a Strat, but the body was smaller like Fender Mustang, and it didn't have a lower tone control or this style jack. It actually had a jack in the front. It still had 3 pickups. It had a tremolo on it, and the peg head was like a Stratocaster one. It actually said here, Squier, and then it had like a star with a #1 on it, and it said Bullet on it. I had this guitar for less than a month. Technically that was my first guitar, but I don't count that because I didn't know how to play it, and it ended up having a really bad flaw in the neck. Not like most Strats or most Telecasters get like a small finish crack at the neck joint from expansion and contraction over the seasons. This was like a straight up crack through the body. So Hauer Music, which is in the Dayton area, we actually bought that guitar and this guitar off the original location, which I think was on First Street. They had since moved it to this factory building on 3rd, and I think recently they moved to Centerville in their latest location. 36 years ago, I got a Squier Stratocaster, but it wasn't this Squier Stratocaster. I would say maybe 3 years after I got the Squier Strat and I began teaching myself how to play, I ended up enlisting in the United States Army and got stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas. I actually took the guitar with me. I used to have this in a case slung around my back, and when I wasn't in the field or on deployment somewhere, I would go to 2 places at Fort Bliss. They had this sound studio they used to do recordings at, like radio recordings and stuff. I'm not sure what they used it for, but you could go in there for like $5. You can rent a sound booth all day long. So I could go in there and I could practice with my guitar amp and all that, and nobody complained. Pictures of Mike at Fort Bliss, Texas back in, I would say, circa 1992, 93 timeframe, because I got out of the Army with the honorable discharge in 94. This hunk of wood here is more than the sum of its parts. Helped me through a lot of personal depression. Wasn't really digging the whole Army thing. I did my 5-year enlistment and got out. I didn't re-enlist. I missed trees and I was always in the desert. This guitar, I spent a lot of time playing it. Then when I got home after I got discharged, for some oddball reason, as I was working odd jobs and stuff like that, and eventually I started college, my music taste changed and I ended up trading the guitar in on a freaking keyboard. I thought I liked industrial music instead of the blues and rock and neoclassical Yngwie Malmsteen stuff that I had listened to before. And I was convinced I was gonna be like the next Trent Reznor. I listened to a bunch of 9 Inch Nails. Apparently, being in the military for 5 years really pisses you the hell off. I sold the guitar. I got rid of it. I traded it in on a keyboard. So after about 3 months, I gave up on the keyboard, came to my senses and traded that thing in and bought a standard Stratocaster in candy apple red. In that time between then and now, I ended up getting married. We ended up moving out of Ohio to Michigan. I ended up in telecommunications for 26 years. But guitar is always what kind of like brings me back to reality. It gives me a way to work out stress. If I'm feeling like crap, something's pissed me off, I'll just grab the guitar and play. Even if I'm not playing a song, I'll just noodle around on it, and it's a great stress reliever. And I had always regretted selling my original guitar. So this is my guitar workshop in the rebuilt basement. That is not my keyboard. That's actually my brother-in-law's keyboard. My Galloup certificates there of the journeyman and the master's class back in 2011. And then I actually went through and became silver and bronze level certified for Taylor repairs. So those are pretty cool bona fides or bona fides, however you want to say that. I could repair Taylor guitars for the factory under warranty. I wasn't even thinking about this whole process of finding my original '89 Squier Stratocaster until about 6 months ago. I had stumbled across original photos of me in the military that I had forgotten about, honestly. And I saw a picture of me in my barracks room when I was at Fort Bliss, Texas, we'll say like between 1992 and 93, playing my Squier Stratocaster. So what I did is I scanned the old picture into my flatbed scanner so I can get it in the computer and I can zoom in and try to enhance the photo. And what I was able to deduce from approximately what year it had happened, that it was an '89. I found it on Reverb and it was a good price. I talked to the seller. He made a great deal on shipping and I went ahead and I bought it. So while this is not the exact guitar I had, it is the same year, color, everything. This was built in 1989. It's an E-Series Squier made in Korea Stratocaster. I believe this was made by Samick. I don't know that for sure, but based upon the serial number, that's what I think. This is exactly like the one I had, down to the T, because depending, I mean, you could be a year or two off and some of the details on the guitar changes radically. So I narrowed it down to exactly 1989. So this is the quest. I'm gonna put a link to 5 Watt World, and there's a great video you can watch that discusses what happened and how Squier came to be. Mind you, I had already gotten rid of my original guitar. So I wanted to recreate it, and I wouldn't have done any of it if it hadn't have been for some photos that my roommate, when I was in the US Army, had taken pictures of me drinking and playing my guitar. I would have never remembered what it was and exactly, you know, all the details. But once I saw the picture that I had, I instantly remembered what I saw. I knew the parts that I had on it. I need to restring this guitar. I've already modified this guitar. Here are photos of what it looked like when I found a copy of it. And by copy, I mean it's the same year, model, color Stratocaster that was exactly the same as my '89. As you can see from those photos, it was just stock. I wanted to make it a 100% accurate rebuild or rebirth of my original childhood guitar that I love so much. I consider myself lucky, and we'll go through all the little details, but I am telling you with absolute certainty, down to from the tuning machines to the bridge to the wiring, how the electronics are set up, this is exactly the way I had it. This is actually a better version of what I had. So I'm not just looking at the past with rose-colored glasses. Any of the parts that I used to rebirth my childhood guitar here on this '89 Squier Stratocaster, they're available from Amazon, which is where most of these parts came from. So if you look in the description down below, things like the Seymour Duncan pickups, the bridge, the tuners, even the strings that I like to use, they're available from Amazon, so check them out. Really helps out the channel. Now, while I had just rebuilt this guitar a little bit ago, rebirthed it as it was, I have been playing it quite a bit, and I have a different gauge of string on here currently than what I prefer. I'm actually putting on the same gauge strings that I had when I was a kid, and they're D'Addario XL9s here. They're the 9 to 42s, and those are the ones I prefer to use on this guitar. And I do like how D'Addario, they color code the ball ends of the strings so you don't mess it up. Check those strings out if you want a really good set of nickel strings for your guitar. I've been using them since I was a kid, literally. I still have an old package in one of my boxes of miscellaneous stuff somewhere from when I was a kid. All right, strings are off the guitar. I'm also going to take this opportunity to condition the fretboard while I'm here. So let's check out what's under the hood here, shall we? Yes, Mike, we shall. Get these screws off. I don't use power drivers. I don't use them because I don't want to strip out screws. Now, most of my shop tools came from Stuart McDonald, but I will provide a link down below to some decent Luthier tools that you can use for doing guitar setups and whatnot. Again, they'll be in the description, and you can click on those links and you can find that or something similar. All right, so those are the screws. So I want to point out something that you can see here, and it's also in the photo from when I was in the military. This Planet Earth sticker, what is that, Mike? Well, Planet Earth was a Planet Earth skateboard company. When I was stationed in the military when I was a kid, I was trying to ride skateboard, and a lot of my friends were skaters. And the deck I had was a Planet Earth, and I got one of those stickers from the local skate shop in El Paso, Texas when I was stationed there, and I slapped it on my guitar. Well, that company has long since gone out of business. They went out of business in 2002. I actually found a photo of that logo, imported it into my Mac, and between freeware programs called GIMP and Inkscape, I fixed the crummy photo that I found, converted it into a vector graphics image, and then went to makestickers.com and had the sticker reproduced. I had to take and measure from the photo to figure out the exact dimensions so that this is spot on, the color and everything. So this isn't just some decal. I had to have these made so that it was exactly like my original guitar. Everything here is exactly the way I had it. I even went so far as to measure the location of where I had this toggle. All this switch does is it splits the humbucker to a single coil. I spent a lot of time and effort to make this exactly like my original guitar. And it'll never be the original guitar I had because that guitar is long gone. Hopefully it's still around somewhere, but I'm suspect because it was a kid's guitar or a student guitar or beginner guitar, it's probably long since bit the dust. If you look inside of here in the cavity, this body is a glue lamination. It's not plywood. It is laminated from different layers of material. Some people would call that a plywood, but it's not. I mean, it's not like going to the Home Depot and getting a piece of plywood, right? This paint was always in there from the factory. I remember that from my original one. So I did not add any shielding paint. I didn't do any of that stuff. Let me get my microfiber down here so we can flip this over and you can all take a look at this. The neck and the middle pickups, these are the original ceramic magnet pickups that were from the '89 Squier. See how the poles have a little bit of rust on them? And these are actually magnetized by the ceramic bar magnet, which is way different than what your normal Strat pickups would have. This pickup here is a Seymour Duncan custom. They still make these. I know the one I had was a Duncan custom because I still have the stinking pickup box that the original one came in. I used to put extra screws and picks and all kinds of stuff in there. So I remembered the exact pickup that I had. So I had a Duncan custom and I used the original pickups that were in it. The only thing I did is I took the white covers and swapped them out with black. I did have to dig around and find the right covers, but on the import guitar, the spacing's a little narrower than it would be on like a US spec single coil. So if you're going to get new covers, you have to be mindful. You just measure them and then buy them to whatever measurement that they fit to. Everything else is exactly the way I had it. I went to Hauer Music at the time when I first got the guitar and I decided to do all the upgrades to it. I do them a little bit at a time. I put CTS pots in here, which is what are in here now. This is a CRL 5-way switch. The wiring's better than it was before. The toggle is a Fender toggle. It's the same one. I found the same parts. So I just went ahead and spec'd all the same stuff. Now all of this vintage cloth pushback wire, that's not what I would have had in there originally. This wiring is a much neater, better job than what I would have done as a kid. And I did rewire these pickups because they had the really thin gauge vinyl covered wiring. And I did the same with the Seymour Duncan because I'm not pulling it out. I don't need the extra wire. What I ended up doing is I just ended up making leads for the humbucker just to neaten it up because the wire's so thin on humbuckers that it's kind of a pain in the butt to work with. It's a lot easier just to extend the wires back and then wire it up. So this is all very nicely, neatly tucked away. I've got the grounding on the back of all the pots. I clean the pots so that the solder is really well, adhered. I have the ground from the trem. That's what this is. And then this goes to the the output jack. This is a Switchcraft output jack. So I put the same parts that I had in it when I originally built it, almost exactly to a T. And I remember all this stuff because I got almost all of it back in the day from Hauer Music in Dayton. This stuff, however, I ordered from Amazon, including the pick guard. A little bit easier than me driving all the way down to Dayton, Ohio to pick this stuff up. This is the original bridge that was in the 89 Squier. And it's pretty much actually just a standard Fender bridge. That's the original pickup. And that's the kind of wire I was telling you about. And all I did was just put new covers on them to make them black. In my box of parts, and I've got a couple of these now after all these years, I have the original label for one of these pickup boxes that I put parts in. This is the original box that the pickup, the Duncan Custom, came in from back in the 80s when I first built my original guitar. I still have a Dayton Band and Music sticker on there because now that I remember, the pickup came from Dayton Band and Music. And back then, that pickup cost $87. Pickups are way cheaper now. I don't think I paid that much for this. Like 33 plus years later, you know? That helped me remember what I had in there originally. This stuff's really cool. I'm also a pack rat when it comes to guitar hardware. I never throw this stuff out. This is an American Standard bridge. I actually had to find this, and I did find it on Amazon. They've changed this bridge over the years, but this would have been period correct for the late 80s, early 90s. To put these anchors in, I ended up having to drill out the outer two of the 6 screw holes that the vintage bridge had. I glued in dowels and then re-drilled it because the spacing is different. These roller string trees come with the American Standard bridge. I ended up swapping the original tuning machines out with these. These are actually American vintage legit Fender tuners. I really like these. I put these on all of my guitars for the most part because the sharp end of the string doesn't stick out. It actually gets poked down through the middle and then it bends over the slot and then you just wind it on there. So you don't have the, you know, the sharp pointy ends of the strings poking at you every time you grab the top of the guitar. These are essentially Fender's version of Clusen tuners. Usually Strats have like a 9.5 inch or 7.25 inch, like a vintage radius. Most of them will have a 9.5 inch. This guy, on the other hand, is actually a 12-inch radius neck. I had no idea when I was a kid what the hell a 12-inch radius was on a guitar. You know, I just played it. It's pretty cool that I could basically have this guitar reborn again and get it back. It's a rare instance, and I'm gonna treasure it. I certainly won't ever get rid of this. So that I don't bore you all to death, I'm just gonna go ahead and knock this out real quick. I'm gonna clean and condition the fretboard, put some lemon oil on it. I'm gonna restring it, tune it up. I'd already set it up once before, so I just need to check my setup. And then we'll do a little play demo. So I got it all strung up and tuned. Got it plugged into a Marshall Code 50 amp that my good buddy Alex got for me as a gift. Thank you again, Alex. Also, the Moto Club DeFaro shirt here. I am actually surprised how good the ceramic pickups sound. I mean, they are 36 years old after all. I'm astonished at how good they sound. I can't believe it's been 36 years. I certainly don't feel 53 years old. Some days I feel 1,000 years old, to be honest. I was fortunate enough to be able to get my guitar back. While I know this is not the exact guitar, it certainly is reborn. And just about every detail is exactly the way I had it. It sounds awesome. It plays great. I'm sure it will age much more gracefully than I will. And again, I'm thankful to have it back. I found this Squier Stratocaster, this 89 Squier Stratocaster on Reverb. So if you have a chance and you're looking for a used instrument, especially an older one, certainly a vintage one, check Reverb out. You never know, you could find a guitar that you once had before and regretted ever getting rid of, just like I did. If you enjoyed this video, which I hope you did, please take a minute to look at the links below. If there's any of the parts that are on here you all would like to buy, certainly you can purchase them there. It really helped me out. If you like the video, give it the old thumbs up, you know, like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, all that stuff that YouTube requires so that you actually matter to them and you show up, you know, in the algorithm. All hail the mighty algorithm, right? This is my second channel. This is Rench Ranch Guitar Works. I also have a channel, Rench Ranch Moto, where my second hobby and passion that my wife also shares is motorcycling. So go check that out, and I'll have a link to that below also. Anyhow, thank you for watching. It's very much appreciated. And until I see everybody again, have fun playing your guitars. Hi, Louie. I'm working in the shop, man. Hey, buddy. Welcome to the workshop. I gotta get to work, dude. You can hang in if you want. He's belly rubbed. Oh. Snoop.